House of the Dragon had very big shoes to fill. Living up to the legacy of Game of Thrones and rebuilding the world from the series wasn't an easy job. However, HBO still tried its best with a number of talented people in its team and a gigantic budget of $200 million. Based on George R. Martin's 2018 novel Fire and Blood, the series is a prequel of Game of Thrones. In my opinion, a prequel is a delicate way to expand an existing story. Prequel has to be able to tell us something we don't already know while keeping the story under the baselines of what we already know. The main reason of making a prequel or a sequel is obviously enjoying the stories again that we didn't want it to end. And if you mess with already a great piece of work, you not only will have a flop in your hand, but also a shame of a lifetime for spoiling a franchise's name. But we are living in a time where there are prequels of prequels and sequels of sequels and spin-offs, reboots, remakes and whatnot. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they just don't. It's a tough gig to pull off because you not only have to be creative within the boundaries of previous work but also have to be original. In case of the House of the Dragon, people were obviously gonna judge it in comparison to Game of Thrones, which was gonna be pretty rough because not only Game of Thrones was a great work of television, except the last season, but it had crazy fan following. Remember when the 8th season of Game of Thrones came out, the fans were so mad that fans started a petition to remake the 8th season with apparently competent writers. The pressure for House of the Dragon was obviously very high given the bar Game of Thrones had set. In spite of all the pressure, House of the Dragon just nailed the line between being an original series while still being felt like a part of Game of Thrones world. House of the Dragon's pilot episode, and probably the most important episode to set things in the right direction, was amazingly executed, giving us insights to every character's intentions and basis of the plot line that's further gonna develop into the Dance of the Dragons. The pilot episode was perfect balance of drama, politics and emotions. The pilot episode of the series was directed by Miguel Sapochnik, who also directed various episodes of Game of Thrones like Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter. Miguel did an amazing job of keeping the House of the Dragon original and just not a copy of Game of Thrones, while still making us feel like we were back in Westeros. All the characters have depth and clear motives in their arc. The first season of House of the Dragon gave very similar vibes to the early seasons of Game of Thrones. The House of the Dragon ignites the fire of politically heavy and witty writing on our television screens. The credits of the writing goes as much to the screenwriters as it does to George R. Martin, because some of the characters were written and developed even better than they were in the book. Every character's drive in the series is for good and justifies their current situations, except some of the scenes, of which we'll get answers in the upcoming seasons hopefully. There is not really a clear villainous character in the series so far, and somehow at the end of the season all the kingdoms are divided into two sides, the Blacks and the Greens. That's how good the writing is. The story is solely led through conflict of interests, and yet they have managed it to be so intriguing and gripping. The show mainly focused on family drama. It had its way of doing such minimal things that they feel like the biggest impact on the story because of the roots in Game of Thrones. For instance, we finally get to see a new house, House Valyrian. After getting introduced to the doom of the Valyria in Game of Thrones, we finally see a house that survived the doom other than the Targaryens. Performances of the actors is the another thing that holds people into the story. There is not even a single moment of bad acting in the series. From King Viserys to every single child actor brought an amazingly written story to justice with their skills. King Viserys, played by Paddy Considine, is probably one of the best performances in the show. Paddy's portrayal of King Viserys was so strong and emotionally moving that the audience cannot resist but empathize with the king's arc. Paddy's interpretation of the king from the book was absolutely flawless and applause-worthy. Especially the scene where King Viserys slowly walks to the throne. The scene was a gem for television drama. With such little dialogue, Paddy Considine and the team of House of the Dragon managed to give one of the best moments in Season 1 of the show. Prince Daemon Targaryen, played by Matt Smith, infamously known as the Rogue Prince. Matt Smith played the prince with a very subtle approach. One of the methods of portraying a mad character is by storing all the madness for specific moments. Daemon is one of the shady characters in the series. Things can easily go wrong with portraying such character if you do too much of the shadiness. It can become a bit unbelievable. That's where the writers' team took the spin and made the character not just plain old evil. There's a complexity in character. He cares for his family and shows empathy for his family. For instance, when he helps King Viserys to his throne and even puts the crown on his head, and when he stops Lord Corlys Velaryon from talking down on the king. And then we also see him choking Rhaenyra Targaryen and calling his dead nephew as heir for a day, which shows his love for the throne and how badly he wants the throne, that he will even put his family in harm for the throne. Matt did an excellent job of drawing a line between playing two shades of a character while still being believable. And finally, on to the Black Queen. Emma Darcy for Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen was one of the best choices casting team has made on the show. She looks so fierce just by her face only. The last shot of the finale episode was just amazing. Emma gave a rush of a whole episode in just a single shot, without even uttering a single word. Other actors like Rhys Ifans as Serato Hightower was phenomenal too. Even though the character had less screen time, he still managed to leave a print on the audience's mind. Olivia Cooke as Queen Alicent was awesome. And this guy, Ewan Mitchell as Prince Aemon Targaryen. Wow. 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 This guy looks and feels like he actually lives in the Westeros. So good with his acting skills. Now let's address some of the controversial aspects of the show. The show got a lot of drawback for the consistent and long time jumps. I personally had no problem with the time jumps whatsoever. I think they were necessary for the story to cover all the events of the past to the point of where a war is about to start. My only problem was the unnecessarily dark scenes. I mean, they were not cinematically dark, they were just dark. Dark to the point where it was uncomfortable to see what's happening in the screen. I hope they improvise this issue in the upcoming season. Now, after we have all the episodes of the first season out, we have the question of which was better, House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones. Well, House of the Dragon does felt like the early seasons of Game of Thrones, which made Game of Thrones what it was in the first place. But compared to the latter seasons of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon was definitely better. One thing House of the Dragon does better than Game of Thrones is that it only focuses on the plot of one house and expands its subplots around people of the House Targaryen. Unlike Game of Thrones, which had like 5 to 6 plots going on in the story at once, which was little confusing and the screen time was fed to unnecessary plots. But one thing House of the Dragon is missing is a powerful character like Tyrion Lannister and Jon Snow. I really hope that House of the Dragon establishes some characters that can be loved by everyone. House of the Dragon won 80th Golden Globe Award for the Best Drama Series, which is already one up from Game of Thrones, and I hope they come up with more good seasons in the future. Tell us in comments how you guys liked House of the Dragon compared to Game of Thrones. Leave a like if you enjoyed watching the video. Sub to the channel would be awesome. Thanks for watching.